All right, you guys, let's go ahead and check out the C8 Corvette. Man, this thing is definitely one of the most impressive cars I've driven this year. Actually, probably in my 3 years of doing car reviews. And this one is actually not a bad price. So as you guys all know, this starts at under $60,000. To be specific, $59,995 is what it starts at. This one I think is a really good bargain in terms of optioning performance bits. So this is still a 1LT. You don't get all the fancy features, and this is going to have the Z51 package, the competition seats, and the microfiber steering wheel. That is it. So the price for this one is around $67,000. Now let's go ahead and talk about this color. This is Elkhart Lake Blue. And this color is beautiful. It's got a ton of flake in it. It looks amazing, especially with these silver wheels. It actually works. And with the black accents, it looks amazing. Now coming to the front, I love all of this just functional aero, the functional ducts here. I love that super aggressive hood line coming all the way here, all the way there. And then it sort of frays off and makes this like sideways Y look. It's very cool. You have a slightly upgraded Corvette emblem. It's just going to be a little bit more slim. Looks good though. And then you're going to have LED lights on here. So you have LED daytime running lights. They look awesome. Obviously at night, this thing looks absolutely incredible. Full LED lights. You would expect nothing less on this car. Even your turn signals are going to be LEDs. Now coming back here to the bottom, you are going to have all this functional ducting located right there. More areas for air to flow through here. And then it is going to say Corvette right here in the middle. And you do have this plastic piece down here, but you can, once again, option this thing up as high as like $90,000, doing things like carbon fiber here and stuff like that. Okay, so as we move to the wheels, you're going to have 19-inch wheels up front, 20-inch wheels in the back. And your tire size is going to be 245 35s in the front, and you're going to have 305 30s here in the rear. So you have a nice staggered setup, which I do like, and this one has the upgraded tires. So instead of the all seasons, you get the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, which if you guys know anything about tires, these are very, very good tires, and it does a great job at putting the power down for sure, especially once they're warmed up. But here at this angle, I mean, look at just how low the front hood is. You can see how much more stubby it looks. It's shorter, and that's just the benefit of it being mid-engine. You don't have to fit a engine up front, so you can make this part shorter. You can make the hood lower, increase your visibility so you guys can see through the window here. Your steering wheel's here, your line of sight is about right there, and you can just see perfectly over the hood, and we'll talk about that once we get into the driving part of the video. Now, as you get to the side profile, I mean, geez, it looks good. The only thing I don't like from the side profile is the rear end past the vent looks a little too long in my personal opinion, but it's mostly due to the fact that Chevy put that extra storage space back there. It still looks good either way. I love the aggressive lines on here. And just like the C7 Corvette, it had tons of sharp creases in the car, and you still have that here just in mid-engine form. It looks really awesome. Now, as you come to the top, you aren't going to have the additional camera in the mirror, so this part's going to be just flat. You guys can see the engine here. You have all this open area here to let out all the excess heat from the engine bay. Stingray emblem located there. Here's a good look at that spoiler that's included on the Z51 package, so it doubles as aero pushing down underneath here on top of there, and you have sort of like a gurney flap thing located there. Now as we move back to the rear quarter panel area, this is probably my favorite angle. I think this looks the most aggressive. It looks very cool. I love the taillights at night. They look awesome. It does look a little Camaro-ish, but I think it'll grow on me as this generation Corvette progresses, and I just think it's a good look. I do actually like the square exhaust. I've heard mixed feedback from a lot of people. I think it works. It kind of matches the overall squared off theme of the back end. You have this open area here basically to let air flow into the engine bay, flow out of the back here, and just make sure all that air is being used as efficiently as possible. Diffuser located down here. It's going to say Corvette right back here. And then of course you have your performance exhaust. So let's go ahead and fire this up and hear how it sounds. All right, so here's your key for the C8 Corvette. Really nice key design. This is obviously a new key design. You got your Corvette emblem right there. I like this kind of silver piece going here. You turn it to the side, another Corvette emblem right there. You have a physical button, that way you can get out a key to get into the car. If this battery dies or if the battery on the Corvette were to die, you can still get your belongings out. And then you turn it around again, you're gonna have your unlock, your lock, hit this 2 times to open the rear hatch, hit that 2 times obviously to open the front hatch, your panic button, and then my favorite button ever if you like to do a flex on people. So basically, it's very simple. You lock it, you hit this twice, and you can hear that every time you walk up to your car. Let's go ahead and check out the inside. All right, so because the top is off and the engine is on, I'm gonna talk a little bit louder so you guys can hear me, so forgive all the extra noise. Now, being 6 feet tall, I fit really well in the car. Now, obviously the top is off, so I have unlimited headroom, but even with the top on, I fit really well. My hair is about another 2 to 3 inches above me, so that's kind of me imitating a 6'3" person, and I can fit in here without touching my head, especially if I adjust the seat to its proper position. I definitely suggest sitting in it first and then deciding for yourself if it's a good fit for you. So one of my favorite parts is the steering wheel. I love the design, and it actually makes a lot of sense. So I remember this sort of design on like the C5 Corvette, and I really liked it because your 9-3 grips, usually you'll have to put your thumb here and then like crunch your fingers right behind the steering wheel because everything's a little bit upright. So with this, with everything being face down, I can grab my 9-3 and like make a full fist, and I feel like I have a very dominant feel over the car. So I really like that. And this has the microfiber steering wheel. So it's a love-hate relationship for me. I like the way that they feel, but they don't usually wear well, especially if your hands are sweaty and things like that. So if you want something that's gonna look better after a few years, I would probably suggest going for the leather wheel, but I do like this little leather strip up here, and it's basically so that you always know where center is whenever you're driving, like on track and things like that. Over here, you're gonna have your cruise control. Right down here, you're gonna have volume, favorites, voice commands, phone commands, and then you're just gonna have these buttons to scroll through the menu, which I'll get to in just a second. Then the paddles. The paddles are cool. They have a nice solid feel to them, but they do feel very soft and don't have a very tactile feel. They're like too easy to press, if that makes any sense. So it doesn't feel as tactile as something you'd find from like a Porsche PDK or like a McLaren or Lamborghini, you know, but this is also like a fifth of the price of those cars. So it makes sense that you're not gonna have the most hardcore tactile feel everywhere. But they're a pretty good, you know, feeling paddle shift design, and this is the Tremec transmission, and as you guys will see a little bit later, it shifts like incredibly well. Automatic lights, you can have your wipers right back here. The steering wheel is going to be automatic, so you guys can see the little button right there. Now let's go ahead and get into this screen because it is really, really cool. So right now it's in tour mode. It's pretty cool because it's just a very simplistic setup. So you can see things like your tire PSI right there, economy trends, because remember, you're probably just taking a cruise or doing something super simple. And these are things you probably care a little bit more about than if you were in sport or track, which we'll get to in just a bit. And then you've got your RPMs right there in the middle, as well as your speed, your gear, and then you got a little Corvette emblem up there, which looks very cool. And then you also have things like your water temp, your fuel located right down here, and you can switch through over here to the right side using the buttons on the right side of the steering wheel. I can see like a performance setup, so I can do my 0 to 60 timer, which we'll definitely use a little bit later. Lap timer, G meter, trip computer, and I can scroll through and see things like audio, maintenance options, and basically set this up to however I'd like to. So that is pretty neat. Now if I scroll to the left, you're gonna have my mode, which is basically your custom mode, and you can set that up however you want. And then going back, you have a weather one, which is basically like snow or rain. It's not giving you as much torque. That way you don't have any wheel slip upon acceleration from like a dead stop. Now, going the opposite direction, we're going to go to sport mode. So you guys can hear the exhaust kind of opened up a little bit, and then things get a little more interesting. So it's gonna be a darker, like red theme, looks a lot sportier, the gauge looks a lot sportier. You're gonna have your oil temp right there, G-force meter, and then you can still customize this however you'd like. Everything else at the bottom pretty much stays the same. And then once you go in track, it's completely different. So it's gonna take a bit, then it pulls up this whole new menu. It looks very McLaren, very F1. I absolutely love it. Trans temp is gonna show up. You still have your oil temp right here. You have your oil PSI. You still have your tire PSI here. Gear is gonna be front and center. miles per hour is going to be front and center, and it's just such a cool look, and especially when you rev it, it looks amazing. It was just a good excuse for me to hear the engine too, so there's that. So you've got this really nice, like, stitched leather here. It's gonna have your Corvette emblem on top, looks really cool, and then right underneath that you have your drive mode selector, and it's actually pretty I guess firm, so you got to put a little bit of effort into turning it, and it's slightly awkwardly placed, so you can't really, like, you can rest your arm and turn it, but it takes a good amount of effort, and so usually I just found it easier to just turn it like that, but no big deal. Right behind that, you're gonna have your traction control located here. Now, because this isn't the fully optioned out like 3LT, you are missing a few buttons here that you would get on those cars, and then you have your push button shifter located here. So you have your park, reverse is gonna be pulling up like that. You have your backup camera that comes up, which is a pretty good resolution. Neutral is gonna be just a push right there. Drive, same thing, pull back. And then once you're in drive, you can hit this M, and that will throw you into manual mode where it doesn't upshift for you. You can use your paddles, and then at any moment you can just pull drive, and that'll throw you back into your automatic mode. Now, the screen is pretty simple. It's very easy to use. I actually like the way it looks, and let me turn down the AC right there. And you do have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you've got built-in Wi-Fi and things like that. So this is basically Chevy's standard system they have in all their new Chevy products. And then you've got this massive wall of buttons. So right up top, you have your driver climate right here, and I can adjust that by just a switch. This isn't the 3LT once again, so I don't have heated and cooled seats right here. As you come down, you have more climate control, fan speed right here in the middle. I can turn the AC on and off here. And then down here would be passenger heated seats and cooled seats, and then you have passenger temp located there. So this is basically all climate. There's nothing else here except for climate controls, which is kind of a cool way to access it. And then you have your cup holders located here. Very nice. All right, so let's get you guys a different angle, because right here in your armrest, it's a pretty good area, so I can rest my arm here, no issue. If you are the passenger though, I'll show you guys in just a second. It is a little like claustrophobic over here, and so there's not really a lot of space to rest your arm. You can, but you have to do it at a slight angle. And then when you lift this up, you can tell it's just driver oriented, because when I throw this up, it's just on my side. It doesn't lift up both ways. The passenger can't access anything. It's just me blocking them off even more, which is kind of hilarious. And then in here, you're gonna have a USB, a USB-C, and then an auxiliary in here as well. You've got a little pocket back here, and I can do things like fit my phone back here. So I've got my phone on me. I can just get it, slide it right back there. It fits nice, and it holds it in place pretty well. And you have a little speaker back here, and I like how it says Corvette Stingray located there in the middle, and it's very bright. You guys can see the sun is hitting it, and it's literally blinding me right now. But it's a very cool feature, and obviously my favorite part is you can see the engine right behind you. I mean, it looks incredible, and it's definitely a unique experience for Corvette, and it's just really cool to see them going this direction. But let's go ahead and see how the passenger seat is. Sitting on the passenger side is very interesting. You feel very cocooned because of this like wall right here. It feels like you're in like this Corvette cubicle, and it's pretty interesting. So if you feel a little claustrophobic, don't know if I'd recommend riding in the passenger seat, because I don't know if you guys can see here, but like my legs are just way back in there, and then when I put my arms out, I can rest it here, but then my hands are kind of laying on the button, so you have to maybe like this, or just keep your arms to yourself. But it is a pretty unique experience. I quite like it. Not sure if everyone will in terms of riding passenger. And then you hit this button here, and that is where your glove box is going to be. It took me forever to find this button. It literally blends in so well. But other than that, guys, that's pretty much going to wrap up the inside. Let's go ahead and check out the rest of the car. All right, so here's the big news for the C8 Corvette. Now, if you follow this car at all, you know exactly what I'm about to get into. It is now mid-engine, so you no longer have your engine in the front. It has moved literally right behind your head. And if you're a Corvette fan and you're wondering what this is like, basically, instead of your exhaust note back here, your induction and engine noise coming from the front, you have all of that literally right behind your ears, and it's like the craziest auditory experience if you've never experienced a mid-engine car. So that is awesome. Now, this is going to be Chevy's 6.2 liter V8, and this is gonna make 495 horsepower, about 470 pound-feet of torque. And that's actually going to a vehicle that's around 3,600 pounds. That's sort of heavy, but because it is mid-engine, Chevy has worked absolute magic when it comes to putting that weight right where it needs to be. And you guys will see later in the driving part of the video, it translates well in some areas and not so well in other areas. But you know, this is their first attempt at a mid-engine car, so we can give them a little bit of lax there, I guess. Now you do have your top right here. So you guys saw the top was taken off right there, and it clips in perfectly right back here. And you can also take it out and basically you just pull it, it'll unclip just like that. And then at that point, I can put it wherever it needs to be. It's pretty light. One person can definitely do it, but I suggest using a second person just so that you don't drop it, and it's a lot easier to clip in with 2 people. But either way, you do have a really good amount of storage space back here, as you guys can see, and you are going to have LED lights back here as well. So it's a very usable space, and according to Chevy, you can do a golf bag here and a golf bag in the front. So if you and your friend want to go out and play golf, you can both take the same car, not have to worry about separating luggage or anything like that. So that's pretty neat. But let's go ahead and see what's under the front. Okay, so under the hood of your C8 Corvette, obviously your engine is no longer up here, so you have even more storage space, and it's pretty deep. This is actually roughly around the same size as like the Lamborghini Huracan that I had a few months ago. So that's a good amount of space. You can definitely fit like a decent sized carry-on, a backpack, anything quick and easy. You're probably gonna find yourself using this most of the time, especially if you have anything that you don't want to get hot, because remember, things get pretty hot in that back trunk space. So you definitely don't want to put anything back there like groceries or ice cream, because by the time you get home, it's gonna be completely melted from the heat coming from the engine. So this is definitely the better spot if you have things that are a little bit more sensitive to you. And you're also gonna have a 12 volt in here, an LED light, a little button, so that way if you have a person in here, they can escape, and that's literally the picture that's on the button, and it's pretty hilarious. Windshield washer fluid, and that's pretty much gonna be it. So that's gonna be the entire walk around of the vehicle. Let's go ahead and get this on the road and see how it does. Okay, run number 1, here we go. Okay, so that run was 3.5 seconds. I know this can do a lot better, so let's go ahead and try it one more time. So, same thing, I'm gonna reset this. Oh man, okay. Better. Okay, so that one was a 3.2, if you guys can see that at all. Alright you guys, so driving the C8 Corvette. Now if you have headphones, throw them in, because these that are in my ears are actually binaural headphones, so you guys should hear what I'm hearing. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about how awesome this car is. I mean, the one I have as is $67,000. I think this is one of the best ways to go. It's the Z51 Performance Package, as you guys saw, without the Magna Ride. Listen to that. Oh my gosh, sounds so good. I'll be quiet and not laugh this time so you guys can actually hear. Second gear is great because when you come down, you get all that. Anyways, let's go ahead and quiet her up just a bit. So I'm gonna throw it in a tour for just a second. Now, I am gonna do some aggressive driving. I'm gonna go through Ortega Highway, so stay tuned just a bit and I'll get there. First thing I wanna talk about is the obvious question. Does this feel like a supercar? Well, not quite. This feels like, this is the closest thing I've felt to like an American Porsche Cayman or Porsche 911. And it's awesome. It's definitely not McLaren levels of excitement or like engagement. The steering feel is good. I don't want to make anyone mad here, Corvette fans. It's just not great. Doesn't have like the best feedback, but at the same time, I have to keep in mind this is Chevy's very first attempt at a mid-engine car. I expect things to be wrong, and then for the price, I mean, they're shoving a lot into this price point. So expecting a car that's perfect is basically insanity. I think for what you're getting though, it is amazing. It's extremely comfortable, even with this stock suspension. Once again, I don't have the MagneRide on here, so with the MagneRide, it's probably even more comfortable. I'm not sure how much the MagneRide does for like steering feel and things like that, but I will admit that I have heard that MagneRide will give you an even more comfortable ride, as well as at the same time giving you a more sporty handling characteristic. So unfortunately, I don't get the opportunity to test that, but hopefully we can do that later on. But as is, it's great. And the difference between Tour and Sport, especially if you have the performance exhaust like this does, is huge. Right now I can lower my voice and I can talk at a decent decibel, whereas in Sport or Track, I have to raise my voice quite a bit. Everything is actually pretty spacious. I feel great. I've had a few passengers ride with me, and they have admitted that in the passenger seat they feel a little cramped, a little, I guess, claustrophobic, if you will, because of this huge like wall of buttons right here. So if you have passengers, do keep that aware. Also, when I drove this around at night, if you get on it a lot at night, especially if it's a cooler temperature outside, the heat from the engine bay actually starts to creep in and then make your windshield fog up. So I've had that happen almost every single night. But if you don't drive it super hard at night, then you should be good to go. This doesn't have the upgraded sound system. It's pretty good as is. It's just very bassy. If you like that, cool. If not, you have to turn the bass way, way down, because even in like some of the negative settings, it's pretty boomy. Visibility is actually very good, except for out of the back. So out of the back, not only do I get a lot of glare from the window behind me, but the window is at a slant, and in those two together, especially right now when the sun's going down and there's sun hitting at all weird angles, I get the weirdest view out of the back, and I cannot trust it. And then when I turn to my left, there's like the biggest blind spot. So changing lanes in this at night especially is terrifying. But once you get used to the dimensions of the car, you kind of start to learn to work with it. But your first few times, it's going to be a little nerve-wracking driving this on the highway. Other than that, everything is pretty much good to go. I like these competition seats. If you're thinner, like I am, I'm a pretty skinny guy, they fit you just perfectly. If you're a little bit wider, one of my buddies was a little bit wider that I had in here, and he was like, man, these are not big boy friendly. So in that case, you may want to go for just the normal seat, but which I heard is also still pretty supportive. These are just very supportive. Other than that, guys, that's pretty much going to be it for like normal everyday driving impressions. The car rides well. Visibility is, you know, it's what you'd expect in a mid-engine car. And let's go ahead and get this on Ortega and see how it does. All right, you guys, here we go. Ho, 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 ho. Now we're running those Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, and once they get warmed up, I mean, they really hook. Now I can feel that the car does have just a bit of understeer. I mean, I think better tires would probably help, but it is there just a little bit. The transmission is so fast. I do wish the paddles had a little bit more of like a tactile feel to them. They feel very soft. It would be more engaging to have a paddle feel that's a little bit more robust. These feel almost video game like. They have a good feel to them. I just wish they were a little bit more sturdy, like maybe Porsche 911 type. But the acceleration is so good. My word. Transitions are excellent. I mean, look at that. Left, hard right here, no brake. I mean, it does a good job. And yeah, those downshifts are so fast, and the upshifts just give you a nice snap. That's definitely been a Corvette trait ever since they started going to fast automatics. They have that nice pop on the upshift, and it just puts down the power so well. You know, that's the benefit of having a mid-engine is a lot of your weight is in the back, so that means you got a lot more weight pushing down on those drive wheels, and this is making a good amount of power. It's not anything crazy, and that's actually a good thing in this situation because it means you can utilize basically all of that power, and this vehicle gives you so much confidence. I think the only time I felt a little uneasy is my first few corners, because like I said, you do feel a little bit of that understeer, and you know, when you're driving quickly, even if you just feel a hint of understeer, it does kind of give you a little bit of a nervous feeling. But once you learn the car, it really does well. And then remember, you can still get like the track set up and things like that for this. I do wish it was set up like that out of the box, but this is a good setup in terms of everyday driving. Now, this is still the base Stingray, so there's more to come. Yes, I'm aware of that. But this as is really does feel like a 911. It feels comfortable. It feels fast. It feels poised. Probably not as poised as a 911, but this definitely feels a step, maybe 2 or 3 steps above like a C7 in terms of just the overall excitement factor and just the overall feel of the car. Now, I will admit, the sound of the engine is good from the outside. From the inside, it's okay. It's great. It's a V8. It's always going to sound good. But you have a ton of like that direct injection like ticking noise, and it's like very, very loud. Now, with other supercars that I've driven, so just using those as examples, you don't get that at all. It's just really refined in terms of the noises that they make. You're hearing a lot more exhaust in those cars. You're hearing a lot more induction. You get induction here, you get exhaust here, but you get a ton of direct injection ticking. That was the very first like audible thing I noticed whenever I started this car. So, you know, in some regards, it's not as refined or it's not as cool of an experience as a supercar, but darn it, for the price, it's hard to argue. I mean, it's like getting something from the dollar menu and complaining that it's not gourmet. You're getting one heck of a deal, and for someone to expect this to be perfect, that's absolute insanity. Well, everyone, that's going to wrap up my review of the C8 Corvette. This is a very interesting car. It's the first of its kind that I can remember in my lifetime. When I think of mid-engine vehicles that are affordable, I thought of like an MR2, and that's pretty much it. This really is like the first true vehicle of its kind. I mean, the Ford GT exists. It's a mid-engine car, but it's easily forgettable just because it's $500,000. I mean, 1% of people can afford that, and so people don't even really think of it as an option. This is the first time that at least 50% of people who work in America, or really anywhere in the world, can look at this and say, man, I can probably afford this in my lifetime. And that's what makes this so crazy. It's such a good performance bargain. It's definitely not supercar feeling in terms of just the overall engagement and just the theatrics of it. It's not quite there. I'm sure it'll be there once it gets like the Z06 and the ZR1 and the Zora and things like that. But right now in this Stingray trim, it really feels more like 911 or Porsche Cayman. It just has that daily drivable factor to it, as well as having awesome performance, a really high quality interior, and the interior space is good for the driver. For the passenger, not so much. I'm not sure how a passenger would do on a longer trip, especially if you, once again, are a little bit claustrophobic and things like that. It may feel a little bit too confined for you, but for the driver, if you're single or if anything like that, long distance trips, piece of cake. Even in this stock suspension, if you go Magna Ride, it's going to be even better. The performance is here. The steering could be a lot better, but you know, once again, this is their first time doing this vehicle. Everything is new to Chevrolet here. So the fact that it's as good as it is right now means that there's not a ton of fine tuning to be done for it to be great. And that's what I'm really excited for, is to see the future trims. And I think this is a solid foundation. It's a solid start. If you want something that you can easily daily drive, has good performance in a straight line, you can set this up depending on the packages you pick, and you can get the suspension set up to like a the track setting. It depends on how hardcore you want to be with your Stingray. So it can be capable. Just as I have it right now, it didn't feel that capable, but you know, once again, this isn't fully optioned out, doesn't have the Magna Ride, and there are still a few things missing here. So it didn't give me the true full experience, but this is a really good car, and I want to know what you guys think. Comment below. Would you get this car? I'm sure the answer for most of you is yes. And what would you change about this? Was there anything you think that they did wrong, that they should have done differently? Let me know. And if you guys are new to the channel, I'd love to have you subscribe. Hit the bell so you guys never miss an upload. And I will see you guys in the next review. I'll take care.